Magala, Toronto. Today's programs are as follows. I am Lensa Hussein.
Hi, this is TVOMT Magala, Toronto. My name is Roberta Nure and I have two statements here for you. One from the HRLHA and one from the Oromo Liberation Front. Starting from the HRLHA. Ethiopia perpetrators of human rights are not protectors of human rights. The Human Rights League of the Horn of Africa, HRLHA, strictly denounces that UN General Assembly elected Ethiopia on November 12, 2012 to serve in the UN Human Rights Council for the next 3 years starting from January 1, 2013. In the last 2 decades, the Ethiopian government led by EPRDF has been repeatedly condemned by regional and international human rights organizations, including US State Department and UN independent experts and UN special rapporteurs for its heinous human rights crimes against its citizens. Among others, the Ethiopian government limits freedom of association and assembly, particularly for members of opposition groups and security forces have used or using excessive force to break up peaceful demonstrations and continue to restrict free press. 21 years poor human rights record of Ethiopian government shows thousands illegally detained, tortured, kidnapped, disappeared, and or killed who were members of opposition groups or accused of being insurgents. After the death of the late Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi, the human rights suppression continued under his successor, Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn government all over the country, including the capital city, Addis Ababa, regional states of Ogaden, Oromia, Sidama, Amara, Gambela, and others. According to the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights official website, the responsibility of the United Nations Human Rights Council is stated as, the Human Rights Council is an intergovernmental body within the United Nations system made up of 47 states responsible for strengthening the promotion and protection of human rights around the globe. Electing countries with poor human rights records like Ethiopia to the UN Human Rights Council will erode the trust of the world community for a UN organization. Besides, it will dare the determinations of the United Nations to protect the fundamental human rights of the people, which is stated as the preamble to the Charter of the United Nations, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, dignity, and worth of the human person in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. Therefore, the UN General Assembly should pay attention to the reports of independent civic organizations and the UN special experts and UN rapporteurs' reports on Ethiopian human rights situation and revise the result of the election. Memorandum of Understanding and Agreements between the OLF Transitional Authority and OLF Shanee Gumi. November 21, 2012. It is known that the Oromo Liberation Front was formed in 1973 to struggle for the liberation of the Oromo people from a century-old colonial domination and to establish an independent Republic of Oromia. Regrettably, a split was created in 2001 in the organization, negatively affecting the national struggle. We, the representatives of the OLF Transitional Authority and OLF Shanee Gumi, have met from the 14th and 20th of November 2012 to finalize the talks, which have been ongoing for many years, and discuss problems which have led to the split of the OLF in 2001, being aware of the importance of unity for the liberation of the Oromo people and the gravity of the situation in which the Oromo nation finds itself, and reaffirming the deals of the OLF and the objective of Oromo national struggle, we have reached the following solutions and agreements. We have resolved our differences and concluded long years of talks with reconciliation, and that is in the best interest of our nation. We have agreed to draw lessons from the mistakes made as the consequences of the split. We are determined to revitalize the national struggle for liberation. We reaffirm that the objective of our struggle is the achievement of Oromo national self-determination and the establishment of an independent democratic republic of Oromia. We agreed to reunite our forces, combine our resources, and restore a strong OLF in order to meet the serious challenges that are facing the Oromo nation and to struggle for its survival and independence. We agreed that coordinated political, diplomatic, and armed struggle is the means to be used to achieve the objective of Oromo national liberation. We call upon all the members and supporters of the OLF and Oromo people at large to give their unreserved support to reconciliation made by the two OLF organizations and reinvigorate in unison the struggle to liberate Oromia from the subjugation and exploitation. We also hereby urge all members and supporters of the two organizations to end hostilities in order to create conducive atmosphere for the reconciliation. We are determined to carry forward the struggle for national liberation and therefore demand the cooperation of all Oromos, individuals and organizations to join us in this sacred endeavor to liberate the Oromo nation. Victory to the Oromo people.
Welcome to TV Oromia Magala Toronto. My name is Bultam Omer, and I have a question for our audience today. Have you signed a petition? What petition, you may ask? The petition to the White House. Essentially what it is sign the White House petition and help release Bakala Garba and over 20,000 Oromo political prisoners. As you might be aware, the news of Ethiopia's unjust sentencing of senior Oromian opposition leaders Bakala Garba and Olbane Lelisa of the Oromo Federalist Congress has shocked the conscience of many Oromos in Oromia and in the diaspora. Now that you have read all the news and the courageous words that Bakala Garba spoke to the face of his tormentors and jailers, please take your time and sign the petition that will be promoted on one of our pages. Bakala Garba said to the colonizer, "Sacrificing myself, protesting injustice, discrimination, and oppression is my great honor. Honor these Oromian national heroes by at least signing a petition and sharing it in your social circle. They tried to do something for your people, but they were stopped prematurely by the undemocratic and undemocratizable Ethiopian Empire. In the past, some of our diaspora members have lacked initiatives and even failed to complete a petition with less signature numbers needed than the current one. Every bit of initiative you take shows that you care about your people who look Oromo colonizers in the face and tell them in their spirits are unbreakable until Oromia is free and independent. Only our inaction can break the spirits of these heroes in their torture prison cells. It is your civic duty to share this with your friends and family on your social media network or to give calls to your friends and loved ones in order to get them to sign. Welcome to TV Oromia Magala Toronto. My name is Bultam Omer, and here's your article of the day. It's called Kaayyoo Revival, and it was written by Mr. Ibsa Gutama. With deliberation that required many years, wisdom, and patience, nationalists that believed in strong OLF are able to overcome obstacles laid down in front of them and reach understanding. That is courage beyond comparison. Let us all salute all OLF activists for putting back Kaayyoo on the path of revival and the salvage of the organization. At a time when confusion reigned and despair set in Oromo nationalists, a morale of uplifting Memorandum came out filling despair with hope, confusion, and some clarity. Misunderstanding between Kaayyoo and Shanee was an interpretation of the Kaayyoo. Both accused each other for the betrayal of the cause and did much harm to each other and the struggle. Among these were individuals that had given all prime part of their life for the liberation of Oromia. The crack between them gave a chance for the subversive elements and enemy lackeys to infiltrate and divide them. Their objective is to dismantle and make irrelevant the only organization that has won confidence of the Oromo people. They abhor the very concept of independence and oneness of Oromia. Now those who still uphold independence and freedom of Oromia and the Oromian have unequivocally made their stand clear. As said, the first blow is half the battle. From here, patriots hope the leaders will spring forward and tackle the real national problem. They have taken the first great stride that remains technical. As a concerned Oromo, Adi Boru frequently reminds his leaders, let one try to look backward and see what error to come to the mess of the struggle is in now. Those errors should not be repeated again. OLF is a political organization of volunteers that have to pass the testing and hardness to join it. All those that join it, on that standard, should have a forum to express themselves and make their voices heard. The mass supporters, community organizations, and all religious and civic societies must also be interrogated into information system of the movement to liberate their country. Strong organization is one that can protect itself from infiltrations while striving for victory. During the time of the Abba Gada Oromo held their meetings in the open air under the Oda tree. Then they had laws and traditions and safu that very national that were obliged to respect. Now they are operating from inside enemy camps and the openness cannot be expected. We have to bear with the situation and limit our demands for information on those areas that do not expose the struggle to unnecessary quarters. The enemy who knows no safu, it needs to be approached in its own way. All those that went colonial schools had learned in Amharic classes the parable of a monkey. A monkey came out of a forest, pricked all over the body with thorns. When asked which one should be plucked out for her first, her reply was that her seat, or the butt. If she can have a seat, she could prioritize the rest by herself. The Oromo is also taking the same. First time to have a seat, a country. From the other relations will follow at its own time and its own pace. The recently issued memorandum has cleared the so far existing confusion as to what the OLF wants. Those that are against independence of Oromia should not be allowed to build their nest inside the OLF camp again, for they are like the cuckoo, the brood parasite. Any Oromo has the right to independently or dependently organize their canvas to sell their program. Trying to interfere in smooth functioning of the OLF will be considered as a mission to fulfill others' assignment. Oromo have safu, the boundaries that are sacred for the nation to be trespassed in dealing with each other irrespective of animosity. If we are Oromo, whether we are ethical standards of the nation must be maintained towards each other. That will be the mark of being an Oromo or not. It is not peculiar to Oromo to have difference of opinion between individuals or groups. Contribution to OLF in bringing together nationals from different backgrounds, beliefs, and religions from 60s onwards cannot be forgotten. By that, Oromo youth were able to march together and defend their Kaayyoo in their blood. Still, they need the spirit. An organization does not operate in vacuum. Interferences should not be expected from all corners, internal or external. Personal or group interests need to be sacrificed for the benefit of the liberation of the common country today. Unless one tastes hardship at their present, they will not be enjoying individual rights and liberties tomorrow that might bestow. For whatever to be politically conscious is essential. Only the conscious can defend one's rights. Otherwise, saboteurs will try to create doubt on the noble principles for which one stands. If the present organization, the generation depends only on its experience in all its relations and decision makings, there could be error in judgment. They should give a role for imagination to view what life may look like in the years ahead. Then only could they consolidate aspirations of the past, the present, and the future generation, in short, the Kaayyoo of the nation. For this reason, the understanding that is reached now must start working towards the future while maturely taking proper care of the present. The hope of the Oromo nation lies in a strong future generation, a future generation that did not experience the type of slavery and vacillations that its forerunners experienced. Oromo revolutionaries are guided by a vision for peaceful religion, a vision for peaceful region, content, and the world. Above all, a clear vision for the independent Republic of Oromia, where its citizens live in happiness and the tranquility, respected as human beings. They are not interested in the cross borders, the conquerors for payback to what they had did unto them. They only want their country and freedom back. Many experts and laureates tried to overlook the agony in which the Oromo find themselves and demand from them to give the priority for strengthening the empire. There are many Oromo groups which stoop to their demands. In those rather than bothering the ones that look at history differently, there's also no need for empire hopefuls to brand Oromo patriots with different adjectives. Why are these anti-Oromo elements after the victims, leaving aside the visitors? Oromo are not acting as victims, but are victims of circumstances in real terms. They are not crying for the mercy, but to express the just cause of the struggle. It is to warn the oppressor that there could be consequences for which they will blame themselves alone. Why should anybody raise quislings and mercenaries from their grave as if they have done any honorable thing for the Oromo? Having Oromo blood does not make one a respectable Oromo. We can list the wrongdoings of those quislings and Gultu, but culture forbids us to tarnish the dead. It is sacrifice one makes for freedom and independence of the nation that counts to be adored. Oromo nation has choices in front of it: to live as an independent nation or to continue to live under colonial dictates. If they adhere to their Gada tradition, they will choose the first. If they choose to be looked upon as slaves for the eternity, they will choose to be the second. The choice is theirs, and they do not need suggestions from outsiders and their clients. Oromo nationalists had once again shamed those that said OLF and the Kaayyoo are dead. The aspirations of freedom never dies. Despair and betrayals has so far slowed progress towards the final goal, but could never stop it. Let the skirmishes and the bickering that had consumed the Oromo time of the last decade come to an end. Let building trust that has eroded by internal and externally pumped propaganda and rumors start to be rebuilt. There is only one Oromia to which all that claim to be Oromian belong. The Oromo love all peoples of Africa, the Horn and the world. Their belief emanates from their great love, peace, tranquility, freedom, and equality that they had inherited from their Gada democratic culture. Let no segment of Oromia be marginalized in contributing to the liberation of the country. Haile Selassie's foreign-based model of struggle is not fit for the OLF. Let the struggle head to where the oppression is. Let us salute once again all the OLF activists for their courage in bringing the struggle to this level. Let nothing stand in their way in forgetting and forgiving the past and move forward. Kaayyoo is starting to revive. Thank you for watching TV Oromia Magala Toronto's Article of the Day section. I'm Boltam Omer, and I'm signing off. We are moving on to a statement made by the Human Rights League of the Horn of Africa on the kidnappings and disappearance. The Human Rights League of the Horn of Africa, or the HRLHA, is highly concerned about the safety and whereabouts of Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman Yusuf, an Oromo national refugee from Ethiopia who was kidnapped from a residence in Hargeisa, Somali-land on the 23rd of November 2012 at around 6 p.m. Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman Yusuf with the UNHCR was kidnapped at the same time and date mentioned above by what were said to have been members of the Somali-land security forces. Apart from the refugee life, Miss Rian Abdurrahman was engaged in teaching kids, most of whom are refugees, along with her brother named Mr. Bahar Abdurrahman, at a school called Sheikh Madar in Hargeisa. There has been no official or confirmed report as to the whereabouts of Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman could have been ever since she was kidnapped. But according to some rumors, Mrs. Rian is being held at a jail in Jigjiga in the Ogaden regional state in Ethiopia. As it has been said in the case in the past, the implications is that Mrs. Rian is also handed over to the Ethiopian government by the government of the Somali-land against Refugee Protections Convention in 1951, put in place in various relevant international documents. Mrs. Rian's father, Mr. Abdurrahman Yusuf, was himself one of the victims of such actions that violent international agreements jointly committed by the government of Ethiopia and Somaliland. Under Article 33-1, the Convention relating to the status of the refugees, no contracting state shall expel or forcibly return a refugee in any manner whatsoever to the frontiers of the territories where his life or freedom would be threatened on account of his political opinion. In case Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman is to be deported to Ethiopia, the Ethiopian government has well-documented record of gross and flagrant violations of human rights, including the torturing of its own citizens who are voluntarily returned to the country. The government of Ethiopia routinely imprisons such persons. There have been credible reports of the physical and psychological abuses committed against individuals in Ethiopian prisons and other secret places of detention. This obligation, which also has principles of the customary international law, applies to both asylum seekers and refugees, as affirmed by UNHCR's Executive Committee and the By deporting Mrs. Rian and others, Somaliland government will be breaching its obligations under international treaties as well as customary law. Under the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, Somaliland has an obligation not to return a person to a place where they face torture or ill treatment. Article 3 of the Convention Against Torture provides, no state or party shall expel, return, or extradite a person to another state where there are substantial grounds to believe that they would be in danger of being subjected to torture. Or number 2, for the purpose of determining whether there are such grounds, the competent authority shall take into account all relevant considerations, including, where applicable, the existence in the state of concern of consistent pattern of gross, flagrant, or mass violations of human rights. We strongly urge the government of Somaliland to respect these international treaties and obligations. Therefore, the Human Rights League of the Horn of Africa, or the HRLHA, strongly demands the unconditional release of Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman from wherever she is currently being held at, and calls upon both the Ethiopian and Somaliland governments to ensure Ms. Rian's freedom from detention. The HRLHA also calls upon all local, regional, and international human rights, refugee, as well as diplomatic agencies to put pressure on two governments to first disclose Mrs. Rian's whereabouts and then immediately release her from detention. The recommended action would be to please send appeals to the Somaliland government, concerned Somaliland officials, and to diplomatic representatives of Somaliland who are accredited to your country as swiftly as possible in English, Somali language, or your own language expressing, to disclose the whereabouts of Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman Yusuf, your concern regarding the apprehension and fear of torture of Mrs. Rian Abdurrahman Yusuf, who is being held in unknown detention centers, and calling for her immediate unconditional release. Urging Somaliland authorities to ensure that she would be treated in accordance with the original and international standards on the treatment of prisoners, and to abide the international conventions of the refugees and asylum seekers not to return a personal place where they face torture or ill treatment. Thank you for watching TV Oromo Magala Toronto, and that was a statement from the HRLHA on kidnapping and disappearance in the state of Ethiopia and Somaliland. I am Baltimore, and I'm signing off.
galafate Echa safelayade oboroka yade ambake amajane akalencha wanyate akalencha wanyate akalencha wanyate tu male wala ga go time o tamale wandura do time o to la ni te tuma go ta dun te tuma are chogo ta de te o dun to te tuma o dun te tuma o dun te tuma o la bo ya pulichano le or korade la robo on korade na dale o ta du bande bile gombise di kumale no bola yo tumbado ko me ka tu bade kai se na anole kai se na anole kai se na anole kai se na anole kama bare kama na de tu de arba bare to batare budde Tumana mafurtisa Tumani guyalola Ampatiya majane Gurana mulisa Gurana mulisa Gurana mulisa Gurana mulisa Fardare be avon ali go taraso inonatare afo go ye fardare akiya go banaga inonatare afo atiyan so mayadaka inonatare afo abo be safi tembala inonatare afo otale go tumadala inonatare afo warani kara adata Ota finina putata Odale mukarebe Aliana kabuana kamarebe Odale mukarebe Orebo Aliana kabuana kamarebe Odale chachachapse Chachapsa kiyawanyo sidadabde Odale chachachapse Orebo Chachapsa kiyawanyo sidadabde Oh yo Umo guracha saka kayonde bitewaka Oh yo Rebo Umo guracha saka kayonde bitewaka Akamar kalo lilafu kayonde Itena de bisigafu Kayonde bitiwaka Abo besafi tembala Kayonde bitiwaka Otale go tumadala Kayonde bitiwaka Warani kara adata Kayonde bitiwaka Ota finina putata Kayonde bitiwaka Kayonde bitiwaka Kayonde bitiwaka Warana kajelchi jete kadula bae hadulu dili bae Endula kaina jete gajabada tambi